How can you create more empathy in your professional and your personal relationships? I have this formula. It's the CCDTE formula. It works like this. It's curiosity or concern that leads you to a conversation, that leads to connection, that builds more trust, that ultimately leads you to the possibility of creating an empathy-rich environment where in your professional relationships, there's respect, there's encouragement, there's support. You get the feeling that people are on your side. You get the feeling that you'll get the things you need, the kinds of conversations you need to have to make sure that your job is going okay, that if you're experiencing frustration or you're feeling like nobody is listening to you, paying attention, all of those things lead you to that with this formula. So it starts with curiosity. You might look at this video and you might think, oh, this is an interesting painting. Tell me about it. That's curiosity. So if I tell you about that painting, I'm going to describe how my daughter painted it. It was her first painting. I will also explain to you that maybe this color scheme is part of my life color. You're looking at this blue wall. You're looking at this blue shirt. You're looking at the things that I'm wearing, glasses, a ring. They're blue, and I wanted this painting because it fits into that. It fits into my life color. So here's the thing. That's curiosity. Curiosity might lead you to that. You might also see me sometime out in public performing on a blue trombone. You might say, hey, what's the story behind the blue trombone? Well, the blue trombone fits my life color. It's a custom trombone. Now, the interesting thing about that, before I bought the trombone, I went to the music dealer in our town. I said, hey, Kevin, what do you think about this trombone? He goes, man, Nepp, he said, that's really expensive. You sure you want this? Are you going through a midlife crisis? So when I told my sweetheart that, she said, if it was a convertible and a 28-year-old, she'd be worried. She thought the blue trombone was okay. But curiosity about those things, curiosity about someone who pulls into the parking lot, driving a brand new ride, someone pulls in having a meticulously maintained classic car, or they drive in and their tire is low. You know, there's things that from the time you walk in from the parking lot to your station at work, you can have a conversation about, hey, tell me about that car you just got. Hey, tell me about that beautiful car. What's the story behind that? It's amazing what you can learn in that amount of time. And when you learn that curiosity, it's going to take you into that whole idea about having a conversation. The other piece of that, the opposite of curiosity, might be concern. You might see somebody sitting at their desk kind of slumped over. Maybe they've got their head on their hands and their head is down. Maybe they just have these shoulders that are dragging. Maybe they have this look like there's really something heavy going on in their lives. So that's not so much curiosity, that's concern. Hey, John, I noticed that something's going on, man. You want to tell me about it? I'm here to listen. Hey, Pam, I see that you have papers and papers and papers stacked on your desk. Is everything okay? That question alone, is everything okay, can open the door to that conversation that says, well, yeah, everything's fine. Well, we know that I'm fine are the two biggest words that form the biggest lie in relationships. Oh, I'm fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. No, it's not. But when the follow-up question might be, well, it doesn't seem like things are fine. How can I support you? How can I support you? That comes from a concern standpoint. How can I support you with concern because I can see something's going on? Curiosity and concern might very well lead us to a conversation that might lead into a conversation that matters. Here's the thing. With conversations, you can't tell if it matters until you're in the middle of it, or maybe an hour later, maybe a week or a year later, you go, oh, that conversation really hit me hard, or it really uplifted me, and I'm just thinking about it and remembering. See, when we go into those conversations after curiosity and concern, having those conversations then can lead us to extraordinary things. We can learn about what's going on in people's lives. We can learn what they're going through. We can come to understand what things they need to do a better job at work. We can come to support them in a way that not only helps them get through it, but it leads to something that is above just a conversation. It leads us to connection. Now, I don't know about you, but I live for those connections, and I can tell when they're there, and I can tell when they're not. And I'm uncomfortable when they're not. Now, the truth is, we can't connect with everybody. We cannot possibly connect with everybody. But by having those conversations that go a little deeper, that explore what people are feeling and thinking and what their opinions are and what they think about something and how they might make things better, or tell us, hey, you know, I'm carrying the weight of my financials into work and I'm really struggling. Whatever it is, when we have that, when we establish that connection, people know that they might be able to trust us more. And when we create that connection that builds up trust, people are going to share more. They're going to be willing to be vulnerable. They're going to be willing to say, look, this is something I need. Can you support me with this? Those are powerful words that come from having established that connection, that say, I trust you enough to come to you with something that's either bothering me, something that is going to make our relationship better, or something that is going to help me connect in a way with our customers, with the work staff, with our clients. That's golden. And so, do we want just one connection? You know, I think about conversations I've had based on curiosity or based on concern with all kinds of people. And I love having those conversations. I love establishing those connections. Because the next time I see them, chances are I'm going to say, hey, how are things going with your son? Or did you get that tire fixed on your car? Or, man, I just love seeing when you pull in the parking lot with that really fancy car. They're going to be willing and able to tell us more because they trust. See, and that's the thing too. You know, when we're establishing trust and connection, we have to give them time to answer questions we might ask them, because they are thinking about what they feel, what they believe in, what their ideas are to make the project better, what their thoughts are about what's going on at work, what's going on at home, that allow us to keep them there longer, to get them to talk to us in a way that's meaningful and productive and profound. And it's quite possible that in those conversations, after curiosity and concern that create connection, that we could maybe make somebody's day, maybe make a project go much more smoothly, maybe change their life. Do we know if it's going to? No. Is that our goal? No. But what if it does do that? And here's the thing. We get all these things: curiosity, concern, having a conversation that leads to connection, that builds trust. It allows us to open the door to an empathy-rich environment that is full of support for people, encouragement. Hey, what can we do to get through this together? And you can start anywhere in that formula. If you start with the formula, the empathy first, if you say, hey, what can I do to help you get through this? Golden. You start at that point in the cycle. You might start at having a conversation that leads you to curiosity. You might understand that somehow there's a connection between you and that person that immediately creates trust without all that other stuff first. But it goes around in that cycle. It goes curiosity, concern, having a conversation, and then maybe a conversation that matters, that goes to connection and building trust and in creating this empathy-rich environment. Start anywhere in the cycle. But what we want through all of that is higher levels of trust and connection and ultimately empathy. So in the next video, we're going to talk about more ways to bring empathy into your work environment, into your customer service, ways that we can connect with other people, because to me, that's the lifeblood of everything we do. Check out my next video. I'm John Nepper. See you soon.